A More Beautiful Life podcast, recognizing, appreciating, and integrating earliest life experiences. There are times in our lives when we all yearn for something. More contact with others, a special relationship, a better job, more time to oneself, more respect, more love, more support, or, well, anything. It can all be summed up in wanting a more beautiful life. You just fill in the blank for what equals beauty for you. My specialty is healing our earliest traumas to discover our truest nature. I've been working at understanding this paradigm for a long time, since 1999, when a client remembered her birth during a craniosacral session. She explained to me that she felt healing her birth experience would relieve her lifelong depression. That experience took hold of me with such passion so that years later I'm filling in the gap between our ancestral past and our present lives with recognition of our earliest life experiences starting preconception. It involves appreciating how we adapted to our difficulties and then integrating any overwhelming experiences into our current lives. Welcome to A More Beautiful Life. This podcast includes luminaries from the fields of infant mental health, prenatal and perinatal psychology, colleagues and experts in trauma resolution, advanced body workers, clients who want to share their stories, authors of pivotal books and articles, and people who, in my opinion, have sought out a more beautiful life. Join me, Kate White, and our honored guest as we explore a more beautiful life. Enjoy. Today on the show, I have two friends and colleagues, supervisors, teachers, mentors of mine. Tara Blasco and Mary Jackson. Tara Blasco is the director of the BEBA clinic, the Building, Enhancing, and Bonding and Attachment, and Mary Jackson is the president. And they both are legacy teachers for Ray Castellino and are pivotal and important to many people who are interested in pre and perinatal somatics. Tara has a Ph.D. in prenatal and perinatal psychology from the Santa Barbara Graduate Institute and has worked at the BEBA clinic since 2001. Currently, she is the director of the BEBA clinic and works as a facilitator. She's a certified craniosacral therapist. She is a psychologist in her own country of origin, Spain. She's a certified womb surround process workshop facilitator through Castellino training. She co-teaches with Dr. Castellino's foundation training in Spain, together with Mary Jackson. With her husband, Lynn, she co-directs a nonprofit organization, Global Resource Alliance, dedicated to the alleviation of poverty and disease by supporting communities in the Mara region of Tanzania. And then we also have Mary Jackson. Mary will be our first speaker in the upcoming series supporting families to integrate their birth and prenatal experiences. Mary Jackson has been a home birth midwife since 1975. She was one of the women who brought midwifery back to life in California in the 1970s. Her work encompasses prenatal care, home birth, postpartum care, and birth trauma resolution. She incorporates craniosacral therapy, somatic experiencing, circle of security, and the Castellino PPN training in her work as a midwife. She is one of the co-teachers of the Castellino Foundation training and is a womb surround process workshop facilitator. Mary was an adjunct faculty member for 8 years at the Santa Barbara Graduate Institute and has been president of the BEBA clinic since 2003. Her focus is on assisting babies and parents to integrate the birth experience in order to strengthen their relationships. A national and international speaker, Mary strives to educate people around the world about birth and how it can impact their lives forever. And today on the show, I have two colleagues, people who've taught me, who've been kept me good company along this path that I love. All of you out there who've heard me talk about pre and perinatal somatic psychology and somatics. I have Mary Jackson, a midwife from California, Ventura, and I have Tara Blasco, who is also working with the Building and Enhancing Bonding Clinic, and she has a Ph.D. in pre and perinatal psychology. Is that how you refer to it, Tara, pre and perinatal psychology?
Yeah, that's a good way to say it, yeah.
And these are both colleagues that are trained by Ray Castellino. And Mary is the president of the Building and Enhancing Bonding and Attachment Clinic, and Tara is the director. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kate. It's good to be with
Thank
you.
you, Kate. Yeah, it's really good to be with you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you agreed to be on the show, to come and tell people about the good work that you're doing and all the things that you've done over the many years of being with Ray Castellino, assisting him, learning his work, applying it to working with families. I mean, there's so many wonderful things that I've told people about the work and things that you've helped co-create with him. So I'm wondering if we could start with you, Tara, if you could talk a little bit more about yourself and about the Building and Enhancing Bonding and Attachment Clinic that we're doing a series with you coming up.
Sure. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, well, my name is Tara Blasco. I come originally from Spain, and I met Ray in Europe, where I trained with him in the late 90s. And I trained in pre and perinatal therapy with him, and it was an extraordinary transformation for me to explore my early life. I had no idea about my early life. I never knew that even it was a thing. And I took this training, and it changed my life. So I was very curious to see what he was doing in California at the clinic. And I came to do some observations and videotaping. And again, I was really, intrigued and transformed by the work that he was doing, supporting families to resolve their early trauma and to increase the bonding and attachment in the family unit. So then I moved into California in the early 2000, and I started collaborating with him and, did all the training and work with families. I've been working with families at the clinic for 22 years now, and co-directed the clinic with Ray and since 2012 until, he passed a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, unfortunately. But we continue doing the work that we were doing with him in supporting families. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm wondering if you could describe just a little bit about what is it that you saw that really captured you, because it seems like there was something that drew you into working in the clinic. Can you describe to listeners just what you saw?
Sure. Well, I had no idea that the early experiences in life, and that includes gestation, conception, birth, and the first 3 years, has such a huge impact on us. I just didn't know. I mean, I was living my life. I was a psychologist in my country of origin, and I had my patterns and I had my things, but I didn't know that they were so rooted in those first experiences. So when I start to understand what somatic implicit memories are, and that those experiences so early are fundamental, and we keep repeating and revisiting those experiences through life, but we're not aware that they are coming from this early time, then I realized how transformative this information was. And then I saw how Ray at the clinic was working with graduates of his trainings, helping them support families to explore their early lives. And I would see how just unpacking those experiences and differentiating what happened then, what happens now, seeing the ancestral imprints in the families, the interventions at birth, how much they make an imprint in the experience of the babies. And working with all those things was transforming the life of families, and families were able to bond and have more love and more connection with each other. So that's what, I guess what got my attention is that I saw that we were providing families something that I didn't get as a child.
Mhm.
But as I was working on my own stuff, I was able to experience in present time. And then I was able to enjoy giving that to other people and giving it to families. So
Mhm. Yeah, well, I'll come back and ask you some more questions about the actual clinic because I did come out and spend time with you and videotaped with you and have been trained by you in the Advanced Family Clinic, and we did a little tour of the clinic. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but I'm going to shift my attention now. It's okay, over to Mary. So Mary, I'm wondering if you would do the same, if you would just say a little bit about yourself and sort of how you met Ray and all the things that you are putting into working with families, because you do something a little different than what Tara does with birth preparation. So,
Sure. Yeah, we both do birth preparation, but the way that I met Ray was in the 90s when he first moved to Santa Barbara. And I have been a midwife for 49 years, attending mostly home births. And what I noticed with the families that I worked with who had been working with Ray was that they related to their children in a very different way. And what I saw was that the parents really got how conscious their children were, even the littlest baby. And they had such better presence in how they connected with their children. And they would often follow the lead of the child in their play instead of leading the child to discover, like, oh, the egg beater, this is what you do with the egg beater and it beats eggs. They would follow the child's discovery of, making it into a motor and, blowing with their lips and, having their own discovery around it. And parents would support them to discover it in their own way. And the level of connection, it was just so deep and beautiful that got me really curious about the work, because in my family of origin, it was very chaotic and there was some violence. And every now and then we would come into this place of resonance where it would settle, there would be connection. And it was like this magic thing happened. And I had no clue as a child how that came to be. And so learning more about that work, I got to discover that, there's a way that we can help to create the settling, the connection, and the really being present with each other in our families. So I took his training in early 2001 and got more curious about it. And it gave me a lot of skills to use in the family I had created with my husband and children. And I really loved that. It deepened my connection with my husband and supported me in things that had imprinted me from early on that showed up in our relationship. It just helped me to understand where that was coming from and to make a different choice about how I responded rather than just reacting. So that was super helpful too. And then bringing the work to the midwifery clients, Ray and I started a branch of family work called About Connections. And we did that for about 17 years. And the families who did their work to integrate their early birth experience themselves with their own mothers and, what happened in their early history, it supported them to have better outcomes in their births and to have more connection in their families. And as a midwife, my transfer rate from home to hospital with women in labor had been 20%. And with the families doing this work with Ray and I, the transfer rate went down to 3%. And that was really amazing. So I got very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the training after the one I took, I assisted him, and then he asked me to co-teach the rest of them until he died. So this will be my 10th training that I've been involved with the next US training. Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you out there listening, both Tara and Mary are now teachers in the Castellino training, which is a very involved, how many modules now? Is it 9, right?
9, yeah.
The 9 modules, and where you get to learn all about early imprints, all about the early life, the impacts of our earliest layers of experience. And I know that the three of us are really familiar with the word imprint. And Mary, I'm wondering if you could define that for people who are just listening, like what is an imprint?
Yeah, the imprint is, as we go through experiences in our lives, they have an impact on how it affects us. And it's like when we're coming into physical form, we're really connected to the health, the wholeness, the pureness of our essence. And as we go through experiences, those things that happen leave imprints. And when we're able to integrate an experience at the time we're going through it, it's not so challenging to deal with that after the fact. Mm-hmm. But if there's a traumatic experience that we're not able to integrate at the moment we're going through it, then we have to do that work later. And those are imprints. Imprints are recorded in our body as little babies through the somatic sensations, through all our senses, our sight, our smell, the touch, how we experienced whatever was happening and responded. And so we can recall really early experiences we went through, even though it's not like a memory from the left part of our brain. It's more the right part of our brain where it's a body felt sense. Mm-hmm. So in a nutshell, that's sort of it.
Yeah, thank you. So coming back to you, Tara, I know that, I loved coming out to see you. That was in 2013. I remember very well. I learned from watching you with families, with adults even. Like I know you work with adults, you do womb surround. I love the whole story around, how it is like Ray developed the way he did working with adults because he wanted to work more efficiently with families. And is that right? I got the story right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if you could just take us with you into the BEBA room and describe what's in there. How do families come and play at the BEBA clinic?
That's a good question. I love that. Well, the BEBA room is a room full of toys, and it has some sofas and very comfortable couches for people to sit, and it has mats on the floor so that playing can be very safe, jumping and falling and so on. And it's designed to, it's like a really welcoming space. Everybody that comes in, like, oh, wow, it's like there's something that settles in you, and you know that it's a place where you can play, where you can relax, you can let down. And you will receive families at all stages, from pregnant couples or even preparing for becoming pregnant, to new babies, to children of all ages. And we have toys for the different ages to choose from and to play. And as Mary was saying, our approach is very much a child-led play. So we let the child initiate what they want to do. And that doesn't happen very often. We live in a society where we're always telling kids what to do, right? And you get your shoes and you get ready and you get out of the door. This is like a time where children know that they can show and lead in whatever is present for them. And as they develop trust, what happens is that they start to show their story. Sometimes it's current things, and sometimes it's things that come very much from the early imprints. And the early imprints are those experiences, as Mary was saying, that we had in the early life, that they left a mark in us. That's an imprint. They keep repeating, they keep coming back. Mm-hmm. So, we work differently if the families have babies, newborns. We do different, like we call facilitated movement. We allow them to show their story with their bodies in relationship to their parents. So our approach is very relational. we don't just take the baby and work with the baby. We work with the parents in relationship to their babies or children, because we want to support that connection. So when they're babies, we might tell the story of what happened. We'll ask the parents, so how was, whatever they want to explore, maybe their birth. So what happened with their birth, or what happened after birth? Mm-hmm. And we slow down, and the parents will tell the story to their babies, and we will be witnessing that. Mm-hmm. And we see that when we slow down enough, the parents tell the story, and then the baby tell the story as well. So that's the beautiful thing of this process, is that you can see a baby that technically hasn't developed fully their brain, but there is enough presence, and it all depends of what we consider that the mind is, and memory and consciousness. What I have seen is that even very early babies, very young babies, are able to remember implicitly what happened to them. It is in their bodies, and they show their story. So you have this beautiful dance between the parent telling the story of what happened. Let's say, we went to the hospital and this happened then, and then later we did this intervention, or they took you away, whatever it is. And then the baby shows what was their experience, when that happened. And we didn't know that was going to be like this. I mean, Ray started this clinic as a research clinic, and all his interest was to observe what babies were showing to us. And so in that discovery process, they learn, and we have learned over the years, that actually all these babies and children have memories of these very early lives. So is to complete this, we do that with babies. And with children, have a bunch of toys, tunnels, balls, all kinds of puppets and animals and all kinds of things. So they get to also show their story. And it has more words, it's more, play, kind of play therapy. And so they also, sometimes they process something that is happening nowadays, but sometimes they just go and process something that it comes from a very early time. Mm-hmm. So we have all these offerings for families. Yeah.
You also work with teenagers. I mean, that's one of the things I love about the BEBA clinic, is that, we work a lot with the early imprints. We work a lot with families and the child-led play, but I watched you work with teenagers, and so that is a part of the clinic too, right?
Yeah, we work with all ages, and the thing with is that, as a difference from maybe other people, we work with the parents involved, and we work with children that want to come to us. Mm-hmm. So this is not the place where parents say, okay, you, like a teenager, you have to go have therapy or whatever. We're not call ourselves therapists. We're coaching, we're supporting families. We have different trainings, the staff at the clinic. Mm-hmm. And we have a very somatic oriented approach. All of us, we are craniosacral therapists. And teenagers, if they want, they will come and have our support with their parents. And again, often it's just my role is not how they communicate with me, is how I support for them to have a better communication with their parents. And whatever is in between them that is unresolved, to help that to become more clear and can create more, resonance, more communication, and more joy, really, in the family life. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, it's a nonprofit, the Building and Enhancing Bonding and Attachment Clinic, right? Yeah. So I'm wondering if you could tell listeners, I know we're getting ready to do the fundraiser coming up, which is the supporting families to integrate their birth and early experiences, which will be starting in October, and both of you are speakers in that. But I'm wondering if you could just say a little bit more about, like, how would you like listeners to know about this nonprofit aspect of the clinic, and how can they help this clinic to grow, or where can they learn more?
Sure. Okay. The clinic is based nowadays in Ojai, California. It was based for a long time in Santa Barbara, but we moved it to our town here. And some families come in person for in-person sessions. Some others come online, and we have a group of facilitators now that do sessions online. The clinic is the payment is a sliding scale system. So we always wanted to offer services to everybody, whatever their situation is. And we always had a sliding scale. In the old days was like $25, the lowest, to maybe 100 or something. Now we are kind of higher because everything is so expensive, but 75 to 150 is our sliding scale. So we try to offer for an hour of services. So that's how we operate, but then we cannot, if we don't fundraise, we cannot cover all our expenses, administration, facilitators, and there is a lot of volunteer work involved in what we do. Like I am the director, and that is a part of my volunteer work, and it happens at my house, and that's also volunteer for me. But then we pay facilitators, and that's why we do fundraisers. And we have been going since 1993, so it's now a lot of years.
Yeah.
And in fact, we wrote a book about our work that I would like to mention, because Kate, you were a very big part involved in writing of that book, and it was a research study on how coming to BEBA had affected the families and how it had helped them over the last 25 years. We published it a couple of years ago. So it's an ongoing research project, but also service-oriented clinic. Yeah.
Well, I will make sure that people know the website of BEBA and also how to get that book, the publication of the study, in the show notes. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, Mary, if you could describe sort of the impact of understanding the building and enhancing bonding and attachment on the work that you love, the work, the midwifery or the teaching, or any part of that, like what would you say about the impact of understanding this model of care, and how could listeners feel more into what it means?
Well, with working with pregnant families, I think one of the big things is to teach them how to realize when they are in a memory versus when they're in the present moment and responding to what's happening right now. And there's so many layers of influence on a person about how they perceive birth. There's their own experience of them being born from their mother's body. And then they grow into adults, and maybe, they have children, and there's the experience of each child that they give birth to. There's all the stories that they hear and collect from their friends and family about, what birth experience each of them have had. And there's the cultural influence of wherever they live about how our culture perceives birth. And so working with the parents to just slow down and take one layer at a time of what layer is impacting them in this moment. If there's like a fear that arises, where's that coming from? If there's a joy and a trust, like where does that trust come from? And where did you learn that birth can be trusted? And so just supporting them to prepare for birth, it was a wonderful part of integrating this work into my midwifery practice. And it really impacted the outcomes and how they were as a family and how the parents were in relationship to each other. I love that. And also it changed a lot my perspective of babies and how aware they are and how they are fully conscious right from the get-go, even while in the womb, and that it's never too late to heal whatever the experience is that we go through. And so supporting babies from the start to integrate their experiences rather than having to wait until they're adults and spend 10 years going to therapy has just been really rewarding. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, Mary, how would you say your life has gotten better by studying this work personally?
Mm. One of the things is it's given me permission to go at my own pace. I have a naturally slow rhythm, and I really got to understand the benefit of being in my own rhythm, which supports me to integrate experiences as I go through them. And also it gives me more choice as we integrate our early experiences. It tends to free up choice and let us make decisions from what's happening right now and what's needed in this moment. So it allows us to respond rather than react to a situation. Because when an experience, the memory of that experience from the past comes forward into our present moment, it feels like that memory is happening now in our body's sensation. And if we can realize that's what's happening and really, orient to this present moment, to our current age, to where we are, to what people we're with, and assess our safety, it allows us to make more choice and to appreciate what dynamics we had to adapt to in our family of origin and what survival skills we developed. And we don't ever want to get rid of those skills, but we want to have a choice about when we use them.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mary. How about you, Tara? How has your life changed from all the years that you've been at BEBA and all the things that you've learned from in this work with Ray Castellino?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. When I was thinking as I was listening to Marian, for me, I think the most important thing is that it has given me capacity to be in relationship. I work my very deep early attachment wounds and challenges. And I think it was in the last, I've been married now for 17 years. And that all happened for me after I took the training and I did the work with my very early imprints and work with my challenges, my desire to be in intimate, close relationships, but I wasn't able to hold them for more than maybe 3 years. And after doing this work, something very deeply changed in me, that I can settle in that trust that I can be loved and I can love, and so all that, I think that will be the deepest of the changes. And then it gave me tools to be in relationship with myself, with the different parts of myself, and in relationship to others. Yeah.
Wow. Kind of brings tears to my eyes to listen to you. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. Well, thank you for coming in and talking with me on the show today. We're going to complete here, and I'm going to ask the two of you the question I ask all my guests, which is, what makes your life more beautiful?
Mary, you want to go first?
Okay. I think I have to say it's the love is what makes my life more beautiful. The love that I have for my family, my friends, the people I work with, and the love that I receive from them touches me so deeply and has really enriched my life to be a more beautiful thing.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Tara?
Funny, I was also going in the same direction. I think love, connection, connection to spirit, connection to my family, the love I feel for my granddaughters, just the joy that they just give me to be in my life, love I have for my husband, the love for nature. I think that's kind of the most nourishing for me, and the spiritual life, the connection to my soul, my inner essence. I think that's what it nourishes me the most. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you both. Thank you, Tara. That was a beautiful answer. And Thank you for coming in and talking with us as we get ready for this upcoming series on supporting families to integrate their birth and early experiences. So thanks for coming, and we'll hope to have you back.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.
You've been listening to A More Beautiful Life podcast. To support our show, please go to Patreon /A More Beautiful Life.